Welcome to Just After My Bedtime, the only show that still believes the best should fight the best and then explains why they don't. I'm your host, Sal G. And before the comments section demands a rematch and the Reddit calls for the judges, no, Jake Paul did not ruin boxing. Believe it or not, Jake Paul ain't even the cause. He's the outcome. Jake Paul is a how did we get here person of interest though, but far from the mastermind. He's more like the undercard fight that ended up headlining because everybody else refused to fight. Alright, let's be honest here. Boxing didn't collapse overnight. It didn't get knocked out in the first round. Nah, not at all. It just sort of lost on points, so to speak. And this started well before the sport confused attention with achievement. Alright, let me take this round by round. Boxing used to be simple. You fought the best on regular TV. I mean, except for certain occasions like Rumble in the Jungle. That was shown in closed circuit TV in theaters. Honestly, we should probably bring that back. That sounds kind of dope. Anywho, in certain cases it was easy to watch at home, and it was must-see TV at the times. Your uncle watched it for boxing, and your aunt watched it for the drama. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Iron Mike Tyson shows up. And Iron Mike, with all due respect, was the first boxer to fight, for lack of a better term, some tomato cans on pay-per-view, with the exception of the following. Carl Williams, because he was 22-2, but he was still knocked out in the first round. Frank Bruno, who was 32-2. I mean, he lasted to the fifth, but he was still knocked out. And the undefeated Tony Tucker at 34-0. I mean, he did take Tyson the distance, but he still lost. So not necessarily terrible boxers. He just wasn't fighting contenders for real. To make a short story long, he was fighting basically future trivia answers. And Tyson's pay-per-view numbers was insane. I'm talking 70 million for that first pay-per-view versus Spinks. And that was in 1988. Also not to mention, while mentioning, it only lasted 91 seconds. That's when boxing learned a dangerous lesson. Oh, we don't need competition, we need anticipation. And that was only the first jab. And then came the guy who turned boxing from a sport into a timeshare presentation. Enter Don King, only in America. Now listen, Don King didn't invent chaos in boxing, he just franchised it. Don King figured out something early that nobody else wanted to say out loud. Boxing isn't about who's the best, it's about who owns the mess. This is a man who looked at heavyweight boxing and said, why would I only have one champion when I can have three at the same time and charge you for all of them? I mean, he promoted fights like they was once-in-a-lifetime events, even when the fights ended up going 2 fights or even trilogies. You'd hear, this is history, and then 6 months later, no, this is history. I mean, at a certain point, history needs a restraining order. Don King didn't sell rivalries, he sold anticipation loops. You weren't paying to see the fight, you were paying to see if maybe the next fight will finally happen. And here's the part people forget. This wasn't just hype, this was structure. Don King stacked contracts, options on options. Every fight came with a sequel nobody asked for. Fighters didn't just sign deals, they signed future arguments. And this is right when boxing learned you don't need clarity, you need confusion that feels important. Don King also perfected the idea that the promoter is the star, not the champion, not the belt, but the guy holding the microphone. At some point, Don King was actually more famous than the rankings. And boxing quietly agreed, yeah, that's fine, because chaos was profitable. Sanctioning bodies multiplied, belts multiplied, stories got louder, answers got thinner. And by the time fans started asking, wait, who's actually the champion? Don King had already cast the check and blamed the question. Now to be fair, Don King didn't ruin boxing alone, but he damn sure proved it could survive being disorganized. He showed the sport you can delay the best fight, you can complicate the titles, you can sell the idea of resolution forever. And once boxing learned that lesson, everybody started using it. Then, out of nowhere, Pretty Boy Floyd shows up, or as y'all know him, Money Mayweather. And let's be clear before the comment section warms up, Floyd didn't ruin boxing, Floyd mastered it. Floyd took Tyson's playbook, put it in a money clip, and laminated it. Floyd said, why risk my record when I can protect my brand? Why fight the best now when I can fight the best eventually? And believe it or not, eventually became a very flexible word. And Floyd wasn't just undefeated in the ring, he was undefeated in leverage, which brings us to Al Heyman. You see, in 2006, Floyd wisely decided to team up with Al Heyman. And this is where boxing stopped being a sport and became a group project that no one wanted to share notes on. And plenty of fighters followed Floyd to Al Heyman because Floyd had a blueprint and the money. But here's the catch. If you were with Heyman, you weren't fighting Bob Arum or any top-ranked boxers, which meant the best didn't fight the best. They fought the best available within the friend group. Boxing became, I'll fight anyone except him. That wasn't fear, that was a promotional boundary. And while promoters were shadowboxing each other in boardrooms, cable gets knocked out. Cable used to dictate the terms. HBO, Showtime. I mean, the networks had real power. Then fighters said, we'll do it ourselves, which in theory sounds empowering until everybody do it separately. Cable got squeezed out. No central voice, no unified schedule. Fans didn't know who was fighting, when they were fighting, or why it cost $89.99 plus emotional trauma. boxing didn't lose fans, it lost clarity. And amidst that confusion, UFC stepped in with a legal standing front kick wake-up call. Meanwhile, boxing was debating glove sizes and rematch clauses. UFC showed up with their priorities straight, like, hey, here's the best fighting the best, same night, same company, same rules. And to be honest, Joe Rogan said it plainly back in that ESPN interview. Rogan's argument was simple and uncomfortable for boxing. MMA wasn't a fad, it was evolution. He said boxing is a skill, but MMA is an entire language of fighting. Punching, kicking, wrestling, submission, and all of it. Boxing, in his words, is a beautiful but limited agreement. We'll fight, but only with our hands. MMA didn't run from the regulations, didn't rely on the gimmicks. It just unified the sport, marketed its one product, and gave real fighters a real professional lane. Rogan wasn't saying boxing was bad. He was saying it was getting outpaced by something broader, more efficient, and better organized. It wasn't killed by MMA, it was outgrown. Unified marketing, clear champions, and one boss. Meanwhile, boxing had 4 belts per weight class, well 5 if you include the Ring Magazine belt, 6 champions per division, and one guy everybody's avoiding like student loan debt. UFC didn't have to steal boxing's audience. Boxing, you did it to yourselves. I said you did it to yourself. When you look back at it, boxing bet on nostalgia, and UFC bet on structure. And look, this isn't new. I mean, hell, we all remember when Fort Washington Tantalin legend Riddick Bowe literally threw his belt in the trash can rather than deal with the politics attached to it. That wasn't a tantrum, that was foreshadowing. Boxing had all the ingredients of a great sport. It just couldn't agree on the recipe. But it also had too many hands on the purse strings, and everyone wanted to be the cut man for the money. So who ruined boxing? Let's face it, nobody ruined boxing. Boxing knocked itself down, beat the count, and still claimed it was robbed. So Tyson taught the pay-per-view shortcut, Floyd perfected the money maze, promoters stopped cooperating, cable lost control, and MMA didn't steal the spotlight, it simply just replaced the light bulb. And now Jake Paul exists. Not the villain, but he's actually the mirror. Boxing didn't lose the fight, it negotiated it to death. Too many clauses, too many advisors, and not enough punches. It kept waiting for the moment. And while boxing was still doing a standing 8 count, the moment changed channels. Well, folks, I'm all punched out for tonight's fight, so always remember to protect yourselves at all times. Man, y'all like, comment, and share. Y'all take care. Peace.